Good morning. My name is Brent Moore, Executive Director of the Children's Safety Village of Central Florida, and I would like to thank you for coming out to our Water Safety Awareness event. Today's event brings a host of speakers that have 146 years of experience with a strong emphasis on keeping our children safe. Today, they would like to share that knowledge with the viewing audience. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce the Children's Safety Village Board President, Mr. Prashant Patel.
Thank you, Brent. Good morning. Thank you to all of you for coming to Children's Safety Village of Central Florida. On behalf of Board of Directors, staff, and volunteers of Children's Safety Village of Central Florida, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our 7th annual Water Safety Awareness event. Children's Safety Village of Central Florida is a not-for-profit organization dedicated with the vision to make the Central Florida the safest community for children. Over 25 years, Children's Safety Village has been one of the leading authorities in Central Florida for childhood safety programs. The Safety Village mission is to prevent fatalities and injuries among children through life-saving education, advocacy, and leadership. Children's Safety Village serves adults and children in Central Florida through field trips, outreach programs, and special events. The Safety Village is operational year-round. We call it miniature city. We have child-sized buildings, paved streets, sidewalks, crosswalk signal, railway signal, functioning traffic light, fire safety house, and water safety complex where we're doing this event. Our program allows children to learn the safety and practice safety with interactive activities and role-playing exercises on this campus. Schools can take field trips and schedule field trips through our website. It's www.childrensafetyvillage.org. We are on Facebook as well, CSV Orlando. If you're on Facebook, find us, like us, and follow us to stay in touch. Summer vacation is the most dangerous time for water-related fatalities and accidents among children and adults in Central Florida. We are surrounded by water bodies. We take this time to come together to bring the awareness of water safety and to stress the importance of water safety and the importance of safety and swimming lessons. We have a simple message. All these incidents are preventable. That's why we are here today. We urge parents and others to stay alert and vigilant around water bodies so that we all can enjoy the summer activities. We are fortunate to have some special guests here today, and you will hear from them, all of whom are working towards the same goal, if not to eliminate, but to lower the fatalities, drowning fatalities of children in Central Florida and beyond. Our next speaker is a good friend and Orange County Sheriff John W. Mina, who has dedicated his life to public safety. He spent over 28 years with Orlando Police Department, where he rose through ranks and he got appointed Orlando Police Chief in 2014. Over 4 years, he commanded over 1,000 sworn and civilian OPD and 100 volunteers. In November 2018, Orange County voters chose Mina as 29th elected sheriff. He has lived in Orange County nearly 30 years and cares deeply about this community. Sheriff Mina's law enforcement career has been built on strong leadership by example and ability to effect the positive change. As sheriff, his priorities are to make Orange County even better and safer place to live, work, and visit, build greater connections and trust throughout the community, and ensure that deputies are very well trained and equipped to be safe while protecting others. Community engagement, trust, and transparency have been hallmark of Sheriff Mina's leadership abilities and style. He is a trusted face of law enforcement in Central Florida. Without further ado, allow me to welcome Orange County Sheriff John W. Mina. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant. So drowning is a public safety concern in Orange County. Now that school's almost out, many families will spend a lot of time in swimming pools and in waterways around Orange County. So that makes summer vacation one of the most dangerous times for water-related accidents and deaths among children and adults. So the Children's Safety Village water safety programs and swim lessons in this beautiful building. They're focused to educate children and families by providing safety, educational programs, and information and services to families in need, and that's why we're here today. Florida leads the nation in unintentional drownings, and about 1 in 5 people who die from drowning are children 14 and younger. Orange County alone has over 61,000 homes with pools and spas. That's why it's so important that we're here, and Children's Safety Village is offering these safety programs, especially for our children. And we hear those stories every single summer about children who may be left unattended and then find themselves near a body of water, and then the unimaginable happens. So we are here today partnering with Orange County Fire Rescue, with Children's Safety Village, to promote these safety and educational programs. And studies show that more than 50% of drowning victims treated in emergency departments require hospitalization. And so along with all of the pools, as you know, we are surrounded by waterway here. And our Marine unit at the Orange County Sheriff's Office patrols over 400 lakes and over 31 miles of the St. Johns River. So we also offer boating safety courses as well on the internet and hand out safety pamphlets related to jet skis and life jackets. But we still have areas of concern related to boating as well. 66% of boat operators involved in accidents have no formal boating education. That's a huge issue here. So the lack of formal boating education, lack of wearing personal flotation devices, or better known as life jackets, were contributing factors to the majority of the accidents. So this summer, the Orange County Sheriff's Office would like to ask our families and community residents to be extra vigilant around our children, around all these pools and bodies of waters in our area, and really help drive down the number of tragedies that we have. So I would like to welcome our next speaker to further education on you and water safety, or for you and water safety. Division Chief David Rathborn of the Orange County Fire Rescue. I'll also read a little bit of his bio here. He's currently a Division Chief of Planning and Technical Services of the Orange County Fire Rescue Department. And so the Orange County Fire Department Rescue Department operates 42 stations with 1,325 men and women. He has a extremely long bio here, so I am going to skip to the end. So he's also assigned the Office of the Fire Marshal. The Fire Rescue to provide fire services, including EMS transport. Within the Office of Fire Marshal resides the Community Risk and Reduction Service Program. The purpose of this Community Risk Reduction Services Program is to develop, coordinate, and deliver education and prevention programs to raise awareness and increase safety and reduce risks within the community. And that's why, again, we're, as part of the Orange County Sheriff's Office, we are here with Children's Safety Village, also Orange County Fire Rescue, to partner together to help save lives, reduce tragedies here in Orange County. So please welcome David Rathborn from the Orange County Fire Rescue.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon again. I'd like to take the opportunity just to thank the Children's Safety Village once again for hosting this and bringing everybody together to talk about the importance of water safety. I got kind of a long script to go through, and I just want to tell a personal story. Sometimes through a personal story, you can kind of get the message through. So I've been in the fire service for 30 years, know all the things, about, teaching children, swim lessons and everything else. But one holiday, as Thanksgiving several years ago, kids were over. We had all the grandkids over. They're sitting there, we're playing around. So we were done with Thanksgiving dinner. One of my sons goes out with his son, and they're playing in the backyard. And then my granddaughter follows them out from another child, and everybody was assuming that they're watching the granddaughter. I was sitting on the couch. I was just watching what was occurring, and my son was playing baseball with his son and did not witness my granddaughter fall in the pool. Did not hear the splash. She's at the bottom of the pool. I got up off the couch, walked over there, reached down, grabbed her, prevented a near drowning. It can happen in a split second. And it's very important that we take those safety measures very seriously, because it can happen in a split second. And, thank God that I was there and saw that. So that kind of set me on a new course. At that point, I made sure that all 5 grandchildren received water safety training, and ensured that all of my kids received CPR training to save their life in the event that to prevent such a tragedy. Great partner with the Sheriff's Department. Again, we have body of waters. You heard the Sheriff talk about the 61,000 swimming pools, but if you look anywhere in Central Florida, there is a body of water. One of the things that Orange County Fire Rescue did a couple of years ago is we expanded our dive capability. We now have 15 fire stations that have certified scuba divers to rescue people. It's just not the swimming pools. It's the retention ponds in the backyard. You can lose sight of your children, in a split second. So it's just important to get the kids through some water safety training, and for all adults and for even children that are of age to learn CPR. One other thing I'd like to tout is the Orange County Fire Department has an app. It's called Pulse Point. And citizens can go and sign up to be notified when CPR is needed in their area. So it's strictly voluntary. You download the app. If CPR is needed in your general area, it will alert your phone that CPR is needed, and will also show where the closest automatic external defibrillator is, so that you can send somebody to go get that to save somebody's life. Again, kind of really just to talk about some of the Center for Disease Control states that for children age 1 to 4, that drowning is the #1 death. Think about that. 1 to 4 years old, the #1 death in those children that age is drowning. And it is totally preventable by proper education, having a plan. Going back to my family tragedy, now when we're at the house, it's like, okay, who's assigned to watch each one of the children? Because when you're at the family gathering, people just assume that, somebody else is watching them, and that's not always the case. So kind of deviated. Public information officers don't like when you deviate from their script, but I thought it was important to kind of tell a personal story and how it impacted me and what I did in my family. I encourage everybody to do those in their family. So with that, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Chris Lawley. He's Executive Director of Prevent Child Abuse Florida. He has 30 years in the field of child welfare. He was a child protective investigator, foster care worker, and a statewide trainer. He's been at DCA Florida for almost 4 years. So with that, if we could welcome Chris Lawley.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Sheriff. Thank you all for being here today. I know one of the things that always comes up is that the Florida is right up there at the top, along with the nation, in terms of the leading causes of death. Drowning leads the way year in and year out in our state. And no wonder, because we have so much beautiful water. People are coming here every day to take advantage of it. So as has also been mentioned, this time of year, we want to be especially vigilant. On behalf of the Department of Children and Families, I want to say thank you to Children's Safety Village for having us here today to help raise awareness about water safety. And as the temperatures rise, the summer begins to heat up, We know that water activities are going to increase for both our in-state residents, all of us, and our visitors as well, that come to take advantage of all our beautiful water and other things that we have to offer here in the Sunshine State. When we think of summer in Florida, many of us picture pool parties, like the chief said, beach trips, boat rides. A lot of visitors come here, too, to take advantage of those things in every way that they can. Unfortunately, in everyday life, the water that makes our state so attractive presents a very high risk to our state's most vulnerable, specifically our children. Children at beaches, children at lakes, children in rivers and ponds and pools and hot tubs, and even in bathtubs, and children who find uncovered ditches. They can even drown in 5-gallon buckets. In fact, it only takes about 2 inches of standing water for a child to drown. Drowning, as I said, is among the leading causes of child deaths in Florida every year. And this year, DCF has already investigated 10 drownings, 8 of which occurred in residential swimming pools. Over the past 3 years, the Department of Children and Families has investigated nearly 250 deaths around the state due to drowning. In 2018, we had 88. In 2017, we had 82. And in 2016, there were 74. Drowning, as the chief said, is 100% preventable. And at Prevent Child Abuse Florida, we're all about prevention. The thing about it is, and what's so good about us being here today, is that no one agency can do this alone. These are needless deaths. We all have to work together. Collaboration is the key. And it takes each of us contributing our own part to stop these needless deaths. Another thing is, you've all seen the scene in movies or on television shows, a child or an adult splashing around, yelling, waving their arms, struggling to try to come up for air. Unfortunately, that's not the reality around drowning. The reality around drowning is that it often happens quickly, and it can happen quietly. So what can we do? Well, we can do several things. Multiple layers of protection are one of the best things that we can do. First and foremost, let's have adult supervision. Whether we're at the lake, the pool, the hot tub, whether we're bathing our child, whether we're at the beach, whether we're on a boating trip, never, ever, ever take your eyes off children. As the chief said, designate a water watcher. In fact, right now, on our Facebook page, we're debuting a video called The Water Watcher. I hope all of you will check it out. Prevent Child Abuse Florida on Facebook. Whether it's an ocean or a bathtub, we always have to make sure that we're watching kids. Designate that water watcher at all of your gatherings, and never assume, again, as the chief said, that someone else is watching the children if you're at a pool party or any gathering. Talk about it. Make sure that if one of you is walking away, the other one knows. Make sure that if everybody's gathered around the grill, someone is designated to watch children. Barriers, I mentioned a minute ago. Along with adult supervision, barriers like fences, pool alarms, safety covers, another layer of protection that we can use to prevent these unintentional and tragic drownings. The more barriers, the less likely a tragedy is to occur, and the more likely it is to be prevented. Swimming lessons. Here in Florida, as we've said, there's water everywhere. Swimming is pretty much a year-round activity. All of our family members, no matter the age, should learn how to swim and can learn how to swim. We'll see another video later in the month, in fact, on our social media pages and that we'll be sharing with everyone. That focus is exactly that. It's never too late to learn to swim. Lastly, know how to respond. Even if you're not the parent, we can all learn CPR. We've known of several deaths that have been prevented, and that knowledge is easy to acquire. and it's easy to do. You even have an app now that you can get somebody to come if you can't do it yourself. So no one is immune to this tragedy. We all have to remain vigilant and take steps to protect our children. Take the time to share these important messages with all your relatives, your friends, your babysitters, your co-workers, your neighbors, and any visitors that you see as well. None of us are immune. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Ms. Naseem McPherson. She is currently an interim health officer for an assistant director over operations at the Florida Department of Health, Orange County. Naseem joined Department of Health Orange from the Florida Department of Health Children's Medical Services, where she held the position of Regional Program Administrator in the Central Region. Welcome, Naseem.
Thank you. If you had the tools to prevent any death, wouldn't you use them? We do. At the Department of Health, we want to thank the Children's Safety Village for allowing us to talk about this important, very important matter. What we do is we look at the upstream approach to prevention. And our upstream approach, we're going to mimic some of the same information that has already been presented today. So what do? We stress 3 layers of protection: supervision, barriers, and emergency preparedness. Supervision, ensuring that all adults are aware when there is a body of water. And when I say a body of water, I mean even 1 inch of water. We have had drowning deaths with children who have died in less than 1 inch of water. Barriers, increased barriers, pool gates, alarms, anything that you can do to put an additional barrier between your child or children and a pool or body of water. And emergency preparedness, ensuring that everyone in and around the pool is prepared to respond in the case of an emergency. And that means CPR and knowing that someone in the event of an emergency is available to call 911. So some of the facts that have already been stated today is that Florida leads in drowning deaths from children under the age of 4. In 88% of those occurrences, there was an adult that was in the pool or around the pool that thought that the child had not fallen in. 60% of those drowning deaths will happen within 10 feet of a safe adult or someone that had been designated as a safe adult. That's why supervision is so important, and that's why we at the Department of Health are stressing that upstream approach, ensuring that supervision and barriers are available. So when we talk about what we do at the department, we provide water watcher necklaces. We also provide alarms from our environmental health system. Our environmental health team will actually come out and they will provide an alarm to parents for the pool, and those are free of charge, and provide instruction on how to make sure those are installed properly. We want to ensure that during supervision, this is summer and everybody's stressed that we have pool parties and everybody's expected to be outside. And so don't depend on one of the adults that are at the pool party and wants to enjoy to be the water watcher. It's always a good idea to bring in an outside person whenever you can. And I have a personal story. I have a 4-year-old, and so we are very, very in tune to water safety. So anytime my family and friends get together, we ensure that we bring in an outside water watcher, someone whose whole position is to look at the pool and ensure that any child that is in or around the pool is safe. And that's usually not one of the family members that is enjoying the festivities. We often will reach out to our local YMCA and find a designated lifeguard, and we will hire that person to come in for a few hours and be the water watcher. That's one way to protect your children. And finally, We want to ensure that everyone in your family is emergency prepared and make sure that they can swim. It's never too late to learn to swim. We live in Florida. If you're going to live here, no matter the age, you want to learn to swim. So reach out to your local Y, reach out to the Department of Health if you are looking for resources on learning to swim. Make sure that when that situation happens, if and when that situation happens, someone is available that knows CPR and someone can jump in that can assist with getting that child out of the pool. Because we never want to depend on floaties to save a child's life. You want to make sure that those children are in approved life safety vests. So I don't repeat too much of the same information, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. And this is an awesome person, Richard Schwamm, partner and shareholder at the Halixer, Pettis, and Schwamm Orlando office. He's an experienced trial attorney who focuses on practice in the area of medical malpractice, catastrophic brain injury, and wrongful death. He earned the Martindale-Hubbell top AV rating for his high professional and ethical standards. Mr. Schwamm has been named to the list of Florida super lawyers from 2010 to 2019 and selected by the Law and Politics magazine. He has been inducted as a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, the ACTL, an honor bestowed on only less than 1% of all the trial lawyers in the U.S. and Canada. Mr. Schwamm is currently celebrating his 27th year in the practice of law, a lifelong time of legal rights advocacy, and he's dedicated to a professional life of serving his clients. He frequently accepts invitations to come out and lecture and talk about safety issues, such as this one. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Richard Schwamm.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I've sat on the board of the Children's Safety Village now for 6 years, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to speak at this same function each year that it's been held to try to provide education to the community with regard to water safety. I appreciate that introduction. I don't think I could have written it any better. And I always want to tell people when they ask, what do you do for a living, that my answer really depends upon the audience. I tell my colleagues that I'm a lawyer, and I represent people that have gone through something catastrophic in their lives. If you ask my wife that question, she'll tell you that I'm a traveling salesman, since I travel so much throughout the state and the country in the cases in which I'm representing families that have had tragedy strike. But if you ask my kids that question, they say, well, my dad's job is to keep us safe. And that's something that I have certainly impressed upon them every day of their lives and has actually been what's helped drive my passion in my career. I used to be a lawyer that worked 70, 80-hour weeks, traveling all over the country in significant commercial litigation and insurance cases. And then our transition changed, our practice changed, because we thought we really needed to indeed follow our passion. So a large part of our practice now focuses on families that have had a tragedy, and particularly cases involving children. So I come today with a unique perspective. My remarks today, from the perspective of a lawyer and a child advocate, will help you better understand how I see drownings and near drownings in the legal system in the state of Florida. So I want to address 3 issues briefly. The first issue is what? What does the law in Florida say with regard to water safety? Number 2, who do these laws apply to? And number 3, how can we as parents and educators and advocates either improve these laws or further educate our community? You all have heard some important statistics with regard to drowning prevention. There are 10.4 million residential swimming pools in the United States, 7.3 million hot tubs. And every year in the United States, more than 3,500 people have died in drownings. You've already heard the staggering statistics in the state of Florida where we are leading in a category where we do not want to lead, and that is drowning is the leading cause of death in children between the ages of 1 to 4. We don't want to be a leader in that category. We want to be a leader in our community. We want to be a leader in tourism. We want people to come visit and live but we must keep our children safe. So when you think about water safety and drowning prevention, you must also identify the causes, and they can really be broken down into the following categories. Number one, children drown because they do not know how to swim. Number two, they're unsupervised in the pool. Number three, they're unsupervised in the home and then gain access to the pool. Four, there's drain entrapment, particularly with young girls that are swimming and go diving. We all like to use those dive sticks, but we all must be very careful whether our pools have certain safety guards in place so that the long hair does not get caught in the drain, which can indeed cause children to drown. And then, of course, there's the alcohol-related lack of supervision of the parents or others not doing their job when their children are swimming. So there is indeed, and when we talk about the law, only one law on the books as it relates to residential swimming pools. And that law came out in 2000, which means it only applies to swimming pools built after 2000. And what that law says is that you must have one safety measure in place. And it's one of the following four. Number one, a pool barrier. Number two, a pool cover. Number three, an exit alarm. And number four, a self-closing, self-latching device. You are only required to have one of those. But here's the good news. Right now in front of the Florida Senate is a bill. Last discussion was at the very end of March of this year, in which they're proposing a change to that law to require at least two of those safety measures to be put in place. So obviously we encourage everybody to reach out to their representatives to urge that law to be passed and to work harder so that even stronger, more stringent laws are passed. Because remember, it only applies to swimming pools built after 2000. And in the state of Florida, there are 1.1 million swimming pools, and more than 50% of those were built before the year 2000. So we certainly urge changes in the law so that those pools must be retrofitted in some way or safety measures taken to hopefully prevent child drowning. That's the law. Secondly, what is the civil liability exposure? As a lawyer, I get asked all the time, if there is a horrible incident in my home, can I get sued? And the bottom line answer is, you bet you can. Not only do you need to protect your children, but you need to protect yourself. These laws are in place not only to help our children, but also to help us as homeowners and us as citizens, and we need to keep that environment safe. There's also a law called the Attractive Nuisance Doctrine. And what that means is, as a landowner, a homeowner, you can be held responsible even when somebody comes on your property as a trespasser. So if your pool is an attractive nuisance, attractive to a young child that may stumble upon it, and you leave your gates open, or you don't have one of these safety measures in place, not only can tragedy strike, but you can be held legally responsible for that unfortunate outcome. So we've talked about the what. What's the law? We talked about the who. Who does it apply to? Let's talk about the third, which is the how. How can we, as parents and citizens in the Central Florida community, improve these laws and take measures to change these unfortunate results, these unfortunate deaths, these preventable deaths? There are certain things that I, as an advocate, always recommend. Number one, you must comply with the law. There is a penalty. You can be held criminally responsible if you do not comply with the law and you have a pool. Number two, supervise the children in the home. Be wary of the fact that doors that allow access for young children to go outside, and candidly, even our elderly population is at risk. You must supervise in the home to prevent children from going outside the home. Number three, supervise the children when they're in the pool. That seems obvious, but so many parents do not take that responsibility. I've heard it brought up before, and I think it's an excellent recommendation and an excellent tip. Hire a lifeguard. Now, you may be saying to yourselves, I can't afford to spend $15 an hour for somebody to come out from the YMCA. Every time we have a pool party, I put out a tip jar. And I ask whoever's coming to that pool party, just put a few dollars in that tip jar. And I tell whoever I've hired that I'll either pay you by the hour or I'll give you what's in the tip jar, whichever is greater. Every single time they accept that offer, every single time the parents contribute in that tip jar, and every single time all of the parents rest a little bit easier knowing that their children are being watched by somebody there who has that sole goal to have eyes on the pool. So here are my final remarks. In Florida, we all have heard that drowning is the leading cause of death to our youngest of children. We owe a debt of gratitude to the educators in our community, our law enforcement, our swim instructors, to the Children's Safety Village for its advocacy work. But above all, a debt is an obligation, and the greatest obligation we owe is the debt to our children. We owe the obligation to our children to keep them safe. As I mentioned, I say that every morning to my children, and they know that's my primary goal. We can all do more. We all should do more. We should take action and take steps to protect our children. That is our greatest debt and our greatest obligation in the community. I thank you very much for your time, and I'd like to finally introduce again Brent Moore, who's going to be describing the remaining events, including the demonstration happening today.
Thank you, Richard. That concludes our speakers for today, but stay around. We have Ms. Karen Faust and Precision Aquatics, and they're going to be doing some demonstrations by a few of her students. Thank you.